People say that I'm one of the greats, I'm the one that you love to hate. Shake 'em up like a quake, all your feelings in turn to dispose them like haters I throw away. I'm forever blessed, got the spirit that's holy controlling me, I ain't gotta coordinate. I just sit back and buckle my bills and I'm ready to blaze in the stars of my destination. Melted broadcast, open vision. Melted broadcast, open vision. Melted broadcast, open vision. Melted broadcast, open vision.
What's going on, everyone? This is Mary Bly with the Melted Broadcast. Today's guest, Tertius, aka Boere Rasta. Tertius graduated at Stellenbosch University. Major subjects were archaeology and classical culture. He was also a music producer and worked with a number of South African artists in various genres, ranging from classical, township jazz, folk, blues, and rock. He's also a software engineer, worked in various industries, including military, financial, medical, and mechanical engineering. He took early retirement at the age of 50 and is currently developing and implementing a new generation social network for private schools. Also in the works, the release of a software map of our collective superconsciousness. Project code name, The Tree of Life. Welcome to the conversation. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Tertius, also known as Boere Rasta, and I'm a sort of a jack of all trades and working towards mastery of some of them. So, but mainly I'm into music and computers and metaphysics. I think those three are they are kind of recurring themes in my life, and I've just been doing them for since about ever. So
Okay.
I live in Cape Town, South Africa, and what else you want to know?
Oh,
So I was curious about you're doing a project called the Book of Life. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So yes, it's the Tree of Life project. So basically, it kind of gets into the presentation that I wanted to do.
Okay.
Shall I start the
Go ahead.
screen sharing now?
Yeah,
Sure.
go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just get that going.
I love that.
Okay. Brilliant. So yeah. So the what happened to me was, I'd say about 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, there was this old guy that was a friend of mine who was a hermit. And he lived in the Knysna Gona forest. And I used to visit with him from time to time. And at that time, I was still a young, impressionable man, and I did not know anything about things like UFOs or metaphysical things. I at that time I didn't know about the chakras, but I think that was about the full extent of my metaphysical knowledge.
Okay.
And you've got to understand, at that time in South Africa, we we were under the apartheid government, and they banished everything. So you were not allowed to know these things. So so I met this guy, and he was like an encyclopedia of metaphysical knowledge, and living there, as I say, as a hermit in the forest. So I couldn't get enough. I was just drinking everything that he had to tell me. I was just soaking it all up. And at some point, he asked me, "So what does the symbol of creation look like? You tell me." And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll go and think about that." And unfortunately, about a month later, he passed away, sadly. So I never had the opportunity to tell him what I think what I thought the symbol was. But that question from this man that I really admired a lot, and that was the only teacher that I ever had, and I don't belong to any organizations or anything like that. I'm a complete lone wolf operator, and yeah, that question became, I guess, what later on turned into my work on the Tree of Life. So, and just to answer that question, so what you see on the screen, the answer that I wanted to give to my teacher was that this is what I think it looks like. It's a spiral which basically goes anti-clockwise because of the precession of the equinox, the precession of the planets, the 25,000-year precession phenomenon that we have, and that's as we move counterclockwise through the zodiac. That's what the spiral sort of indicates, and it indicates an evolution or a spiritual growth for humanity. And it's the four elements there, and in the center there's the fifth element. And so that kind of that's where the whole thing basically started for me. This slide that I've got over here, beautiful artwork by Easy Ivy, and I really admire her work. And it kind of gets us into something. I'm a real fan of Terence McKenna. I don't know, do you guys know Terence McKenna?
I do not.
His work at all? Okay. It's really worth, he's from your neck. He used to be from your neck of the woods. Sadly, he's also passed away some time ago. But he said that what we are suffering from as a collective, as humanity, is a crisis in consciousness. And obviously the question becomes, what is consciousness? And that's kind of where this presentation is going to go.
Okay.
But the question is, what is our solution? I mean, we've got a lot of problems in the world at the moment, also geopolitically, very much so.
Yeah.
And so what is the solution? And I ask that question almost daily of myself. What do we do? And I ask it of all the people around me, and to their exasperation sometimes, possibly. In different ways, I guess, also. But okay, so are we waiting for a Messiah? I mean, if you're a Jewish or a Christian, you're going to be waiting for some Messiah to come and fix up things for us. Are we waiting for the Galactic Federation to come in and solve things for us? Are we waiting for the white hats, which country they also may come from? Is that going to be our solution? Is it going to be some kind of a celestial event that comes in and just cleans things up for us? And when I did my response to all of these it's all what's called a Deus ex machina. So that comes from drama right in the beginning, when they had the characters on the stage, and they would get their I want to say their knickers in a knot, to such a degree in terms of the plot, that then they had this machine that they built that carried the actor that played the god, and the god would then come in this machine, and he out from the heavens, and then he would sort out the whole plot. And you go there, and you go there, and you've got to die, and you two marry, and then everything's fine. And I'm saying there is, and I've been saying this also on online forums for I guess about 20 years, 25 years. In my view, there is no, and I'm saying it really emphatically, there is no Deus ex machina. No one is going to come and save us from anything. So, and I know it's a very, very hard thing to come to terms with. That's kind of the way that I see it.
Okay. So what we need to do is we need to save ourselves. We need to become our own saviors. That cliche, we are the ones that we are waiting for. To me, it rings a very clear bell.
So how do we get there? And again, that brings us back to consciousness. So, and then the question is, what is consciousness? So I'm going to get there. The other thing is psychedelics. So I just want to say something about that. So I think it is very useful, but the problem with psychedelics is that only a very few very small percentage of humanity can or will or may or whatever experiment with that. So, and then the other problem is the insights that people tend to get from the psychedelic experience is very, very hard to communicate and very, very hard to hold on to. That's the impression I get when I listen to people that have done that. So we need to, what is our redemption? We need to realize super consciousness on a global scale. Now, we need to, what is this? What is super consciousness? And what is it that we want to get to? We need to understand who we are from the higher perspective of ourselves. The part of ourselves that is not incarnated into this body, we have to get in touch with that part. And we need to not only get in touch with that part, we need to daily align our words, our deeds, our thoughts, everything that we do and think and say. We need to start aligning with our higher spiritual selves. And when a critical number of us get there, then what will happen is we will start acting, in my opinion, and in my point of view, we'll start acting in such a incomprehensible synchronicity that things will start happening. We will start acting and doing things that'll make the world a better place. And it's a mystery in a very deep sense, because I'm speaking of the mystery of the Sphinx, really. Who is you? Which is the end of the answer to that question is the 2 legs and the 3 legs and the 4 legs, or 4 legs and when it's a kid, and 2 legs and when you're an adult, and then how does that work? 3 legs when you're old. That's humankind. So we are that mystery, and we need to get in touch with the mystery of our higher being. I think that's kind of that point there. So now the question is, how do we get there in touch with our higher selves without going into some kind of a religion again? Because again, from my perspective, the moment you go into any kind of a belief system of any kind of savior, right at that point, you've given your power over to some external force, real or not, that it doesn't matter. We can go into all kinds of what are these forces and so on. And I'm very much from the Gnostic perspective when we talk about the archons and all of those things. So I've got a lot to say about them. But the point is, the solution to the archon problem, if I can put it like that, the controllers of this world, is that we need to know who we are and what our source is. And whenever you get into, and that's what the Gnostic text, maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but also the Gnostic text says, if you, whenever you get in touch with these guys, the final question to ask them is, what is your source? And we need to understand what our source is. Once you're there, you can't really be controlled anymore. So, and this Tree of Life project, what I'm trying to do is to find a way, one way, not the only way, but a way in which we don't have to be in some kind of under a chemical kind of enhancement of some kind, just a normal state of consciousness, but be able to then start tuning in. And this is the key to it all, to have some way to start tuning into our higher being and start finding ways to go with that proverbial flow and to start reacting to synchronicities. And again, the tree of life is by no means the only way to do it, but it's the way that I've been coming up with in my quest for solving this problem. Yeah. So at this point, I just first want to ask: is there any questions from your side? Because I've rambled a little bit now.
Oh no, I like people that come on and they just go for it.
Okay.
This picture, is that a representation of the Kundalini?
Yes.
Okay.
It is something like that. Yeah. And again, that's just not a. It's just a symbolic representation of understanding that there are parts of ourselves that we want to get awareness of, and that must become, that we have to become the. I'm going to give you a perfect example of it, trying to explain this thing.
Okay.
You remember the movie Avatar?
Yes.
So this is it. We are the bodies, and we need to have the higher beings the higher parts of ourselves that's outside of this must start finding ways to connect with our minds here, because our minds are being really overridden with all kinds of signals that makes it very hard for us to get in touch with our spirit. But anyway, okay, so I'm going to so to basically build such a map, we don't have to, the good news is we don't have to start from scratch. We can, one path, and that's been the path that I've taken, because I've just always been interested in, I studied archaeology as a student. And so I majored in archaeology and classical culture. So that's always been my way of thinking. But I've got quite an extensive metaphysical library, and I've read a lot of I've studied all the different religions, and all the I know most of the channels, and I've been on the internet and the white hat stuff. I've checked all of it out. Okay, but for me, I like the old stuff, because not because I believe everything that was written in stone, because I don't, but it's just been the way that I've been going. So the other thing is, because I'm Western influenced and African, it was really, I'm really both. I've got a African soul, but I'm in a white body type guy. That's why I call myself Boere Rasta. So it's been really easy. It's been my path to go into the Hermetica, and that's the Egyptian texts and sidereal astrology, the Gnostic Greek stuff. I can read a little bit of the Meduneta. I can read a little bit of Greek. Kabbalah I've studied, and the tarot. So now the problem with these bodies of text, and then there's also the hermetic bodies of text. I'm not even talking about those yet.
Okay.
So I don't want to get down too much of a rabbit hole there. But the problem with all of this information is it's a vast universe of information, first of all, and secondly, they all went down their own paths, but they're essentially saying the same thing. And that has been my sense of it. And so the challenge has been to find an accurate integration of these bodies of knowledge, which brings me back to that question that my old teacher asked me, what's the symbol of creation? So again, it's been, for me then, the quest has been to find an integration. I know and to integrate things means certain things have to change a little bit here and there, and that becomes very controversial, but it is what it is. And I've tried not to change things, but it's at some points I had to, and I'm going to be clear later on in the presentation of what I had to change and what I didn't. So basically, going on to the sort of the getting closer and closer to the tree now. One of the questions that I've been asking myself, and so for some people it's not a big question, for me it's again been a driving force. I ask it almost daily as well. I really think about it a lot, and that is, why are we suffering? Why is the world such a messed up place? What's going on here? And why am I here? I don't want to be here. Am I supposed to be here? And if I am supposed to be here, what's going on here? And why are we having such a hard time?
Yeah.
And this is where the Kemetic mythologies have given me a lot to think about. And essentially, what they say is superconsciousness is our sun, our physical sun, and they call that Ra. And we all know Ra, the idea of Ra being the sun. So, and then what happens is Ra goes down into chaos cyclically, and they said it was daily, but daily could be a symbol of, again, I would say the 25 each, almost 26,000 years precessional cycle. So these are cycles within cycles within cycles type ideas that I'm talking about here. Very simple way. So they say, well, the sun comes up in the morning and it's day, and then it sets, and then it's in this underworld place that we don't know what that is. And that is when the sun is called Amun. And when it is up in the skies, it's Asar. And when it's setting, it's Tem or Temu. And when it's rising, it's Khefera. So, but why is the sun doing this journey? And the question, the answer, the Kemetics never say this, but Terence McKenna gave me that answer. It's the best answer I could find, and that is novelty. In other words, we collectively, as creator of everything, at some level of our remembrance, have discovered that when we go down into chaos, we discover new things if we can manage to overcome the chaos. And that is the big battle, and that's the big battle within ourselves. And when we can overcome chaos within ourselves, then we can start acting harmony out into the world.
Yeah.
And once we start doing that, because we've been through this chaos experience, when we were there, we discovered something about ourselves that we did not know before. And that's something brand new that the universe didn't know before. And that's the point of all of this, is to discover something new, to discover novelty. So, you guys have any questions, or shall I move on?
You got any questions?
No, actually, I don't.
Yeah. This is really interesting. Okay.
Right. I'm going to go to the Heliopian creation myth now, and basically, Nun is the idea of the collective unconsciousness, but it's much more. It's not only with humanity; it's a universal thing, and the ancients just had symbols of water. That is the sound, and so that's basically. And in this was what they call the Aghdad, which is the 8. And I'm not going to try and remember to give their names now, but it's Amun, Amunet, Keket, Heket, and then the other one, I can never remember that one. But they all, it's infinity, and they dark, and they unknowable, and da. It's all this unconscious, deeply unconscious stuff. But what they are saying is that's the cauldron where everything comes from. Everything comes from this deep, chaotic place. And they never used good or evil. They never talked in those terms about things. They just says there's chaos, and then there's order. And
Okay.
we always move from chaos towards order. And if we cannot overcome the chaos, then we just stay in that unconscious space and nothing ever happens. So then there's just this complete silence and blackness. And that's where everything starts from. And then from the chaos, that the previous slide showed a Ben stone there on the right-hand side. And that's an Anu, which is Heliopolis in Egypt. And that was where they say that Amun first was born. So I don't know about that.
At that
At that
specific
location,
one? Okay.
that specific location. So they linked everything that they did to specific locations, which is quite interesting. But I don't know whether we should take it literally, literal or not. It doesn't really matter for me. I tend to look at I want to see the greater symbolic picture rather, and what we can learn from it, rather than trying to look for literal interpretations here. So, but from the Nun Amun, Artem Ra appeared. He's also called Tem. He's also called Temu.
Okay.
And Temu is actually quite an interesting one, because when you look at the hieroglyphs for Temu, it's also the exact same name for human beings. There's a book that I can maybe just show you, a really cool book to get. Can you read that?
Yes, an Egyptian hieroglyphic dictionary.
Yes. Now, when you open this book up, it kind of looks like this.
That's
it shows
cool.
you, yeah, and you can see all the different words and everything, and it's got a whole bunch of these, so you can see anything that you want to go and you can see it in English, and you can see the original sign for it, and then also the sound that they used to make for it. So this is kind of my Bible, and in that book, that's where I got the Temu, which was also used for humanity, and that's a very interesting connection. I thought when I saw that Artem is also us. They used the same sound for it. Wow. That blew my mind when I saw that, and I thought, well, there must be more to us than we realized.
Yeah.
But obviously we're in this this place of deep unforgetfulness. And again, that's the question is, how do we wake up from that space? So Artem Raz is born, and now you see he's a Sahu, which is basically the highest form of spirit, and I just say the 10th density. I prefer the term density over the term dimensions, because density talks of vibration, and so this is extraordinary high vibration. So it's the highest vibration possible. So he went from complete unconsciousness to the highest possible vibration. That was the birth of Artem Ra in Heliopolis, in Anu.
Okay.
And then from within himself, and you can go read in how he did it. I'm going to be polite here, so I'm not going to tell that part of the story. But from within himself, he brought forth an extension of himself, and that was called Shu. And what you also see over there is the Sanji. Are you seeing my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, so there is the sign of Aquarius, and that is a square which says it's fixed, and that is the symbol of air. So he's fixed air, Shu.
Okay.
And he's an Aku, which is an individualized spirit, but still at the highest level of being. So, and these guys, I just want to say again, if you read, I'm going to show you another book. The other book that's really been my Bible is this one. The Egyptian Book of the Dead.
I literally have that on my wall. The book, right,
You got it on your
next to
wall.
me.
Yeah, we got that book.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with Egypt. Just so you know.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, so when you read, then you'll know that when you read this book, They speak of Anu and Shu, and then Tefnut as Atem Ra, Temu and Shu as the souls of Anu, and they talk of them all the time. It's like to them that was one of the things that they just talked about all the time. And in our time, we don't even know who these people, who these aspects of our consciousness were. So they were not gods. I just want to make that point very clear again. And they were much more in a Jungian sense, aspects like archetypes, but very, very old and ancient archetypes. Yeah. So then the other part that came out of Tefnut that formed part of the original triad was Tefnut. And I've got Tefnut associated with the Ren body. So that's the Ren body over there. Tefnut is also fixed, and she's water, and Tef means to spit. And there's the spit thing in itself is quite interesting in terms of what the Egyptians thought about it. It was very much part of their magical rituals, and you still see it today in South Africa. Right now, just a couple of days ago, I saw a video of where they also again did a ritual to bless the government, so that the ancestors will bless our government, and then they spat.
Well, that's crazy.
And so it's and it comes from here. It's a very ancient and very old thing, but it's very sacred. So anyway, that's the original triad, and then Tefnut and Shu came together as a pair, as a male-female opposites, and they then produced Nut, and the other one that they produced was Geb. And that, as you can see, what's happening is we're going down and down and down into densities. That's part of the bar, which is our classical idea of the soul. That is the bar, and it's like a bird. They had a bird with a human face, I think, is how they always sort of showed the bar. And the bar is something which is evolved, in my opinion. Again, that's just the way that I understand these things. Is the bar is something that evolves over time. So that's why we go getting down and down into the densities, and also let me just leave it at that. So just in terms of the elements, that is earth, and that is mutable. So it's mutable earth, and over here we've got fire. That is air, and that is cardinal. So that's Libra, and over here we have got Virgo.
Okay.
Right. Then going down, we've got so Nuit and Geb. They got together, and there's a whole story about how they got together, and then Ra didn't want them. They then Nut then conceived 4 children, but Ra didn't want them to be born, and at that time there was only 360 days in the year. And then Ra said, in none of the 360 days of the year will they get born. And then Jehuti, which is Toph, played Kenet with the moon, and he won 5 days, and then he gave it to Nut. And then that's where we get from the 21st of December to the 25th, those 5 days. In those 5 days, the children could be born. And so these are the children that were then born. So the first one was Asar, And we're going down into the density even more, and that is the sun. That's Leo, and that's fixed. And that is fire, and that's the Ab. Now, you'll know in the Tertem Heru, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, there's one of the most beautiful passages, Abba en Muta, and that part is basically my heart, my mother, the heart of my coming into being. And then, please protect me and blah, blah, blah. And then they said that you have to take a green scarab and place it on the heart of the deceased, and then say these words, and then the deceased would look down, because the deceased is now in the bardo state, and would look down and see these people saying the heart. Oh yes, and then he'll remember, yes, my heart, my mother. Okay, I've got to go to my heart, and it's also the heart that was judged with. You had the heart. There's the scales, and the heart was put on the scale of Ma'at, and the feather, yeah. So that's the center of our being, and that's and I have that as Asar and as Leo, and then that's what the Ab means. And then the next one is Aset, and that's Cancer, and she is also a cardinal, and she is water, and that's the Ka. And then in that same passage it says, because thou, my mother, thou art the Ka in my body. And the body is down here at the bottom, which is the Khat. And you'll also see this whole thing is situated within the Ankh. And the circle part of the Ankh, that represents Mut, which is the most ancient understanding that we have of motherhood. So everything that even Artem experiences, he was born from the mother. So they recognize that, and there are many passages that I've actually researched that you can see, yes. So that, they refer to Artem, and then they refer to how beautiful are you that you just came into being, and you're making your mother proud, and she's giving praise to you, and all of that. So they mentioned his mother. So he had a mother, and then what happened was that idea of the mother was just they were all the same, and it was always this cup idea, and so you had they all basically represented the mother, but just in different states of a being. So from the Greek Gnostic perspective, we're talking about Sophia, and and you had this the Sophia of the upper world, which is what I've described there when I talked about Tefnut. But then she also descended down into a creative act, and so the lowest aspect of the Sophia that we see here is Aset. But she's still very high up. She's still higher than we are experiencing ourselves. She's, as far as I can see it, in the fourth density. Okay. And I'll explain. You'll see in a moment why I'm saying why they're there, and why I'm connecting these things. Okay. But that's the car. And then the next one that was also born, and that always goes with her, is Nephet, of Nephthys, which was her sister. And you always see the two sisters together, and the ancients call them the Urtis. And they always kind of work together in tandem with each other. And she's a Gemini and mutable air, which happens to be my moon sign. And okay, going on. Then we've got at the bottom here the controversial guy. Yeah, and that's Suti. And he's basically an Aries, and he's a cardinal fire, which happens to be my sun, the sun that I was born in. So I'm an Aries sun and a Gemini moon, among other things. All right, so what I've shown here is the how the emanations went from the highest state to the lowest vibrational state, but they are still all of it is still Tem or Temu, and all of that is an aspect of who we are.
Yeah.
Okay, now on the fifth day, something magical happened, and that's where we get this idea of Christmas from. And that was the Heru was born, and I see him not, and this is a place where where because of my knowledge of metaphysics and stuff for so many years, I was taught this at university, and they were absolutely, that is the way it was seen by the Greeks, is that the Christos was part of Pisces. And the problem and I always had that because that's just what I learned. And I wanted to put Heru right at the top of the tree, but it never, the whole thing never worked out. It just never did. And so the only place where it actually fits in is in Taurus and not in Pisces. So that's a change there, and I feel what can I do? That's where it fits. So anyway, that's the Kaibit, and that's the energy body, and that's 3D. So that's where we are at the moment. So this over here is actually going in a deeper density to what we are at the moment. That's the way I see it. And right at the bottom in the 1D, that's the waters of Nun. So if you want to go down, even from where we are down, and you want to descend even down, like some of our brethren wants to do, well, then you go into you self-destruct. You don't. There's no more memory of anything. All your lives, everything that you build up, everything is lost. So you just become chaos again. So. We want to move up. That's a very important point. We never want to move down. Okay. But Artem moved down to this point, and then from that point, he started descending and ascending again. So, and over here, we've got another fixed one, and that is fixed Earth again. And I'll maybe show it in the later slide, but just take note that the ones in the middle here, they are all fixed. And over here, they are all cardinal. And then over on this side, this side is all mutable, and this side is all cardinal. And that was one of the keys that made me understand finally that I had the order right, is when that slotted into place. Okay, then over here, we've got what I want to show here is the triple goddess. So we have the Virgin, which is Ma'at, and I've got her associated with Sagittarius, which is again a mutable sign. And over here we've got the fire, so it's mutable fire. And on that side we've got Het Heru, which then becomes the partner of Heru down here, Het Heru over there. And I've got her at Capricorn, and she's also a cardinal, and it's cardinal Earth. And then over there we've got the fifth element, which is Sekhmet, and they are all. That's the three stages of womanhood: the virgin, the mother, and the wise woman. Okay. And they're all represented there. And we cannot go to our crown, according to all the metaphysical knowledge that I've come across. We cannot reach our crown unless we have moved through those three stages within our own core being again. So we are both human, both male and female, and we need to balance all of these parts of ourselves within ourselves. Whether you are physically male or physically female, that has nothing to do with it. Okay. Right, so over here, this is a representation that I discovered of the zodiac, very well-known representation of the zodiac, but what is interesting that caught my attention was that we've got Aries at the top, and then they move down like this. And when I saw that, I became very excited, because then I realized that, oh, right, so the aeons are actually within the human body, and they've known this for forever. So this intuition that I had turned out to be not only it was always seen like that. So. But now the question is the order. So I started trying to get the tree to work by putting Aries at the top, and I had Pisces right at the top, and then at the crown I started with 1, and then I moved down 2, 3, 4, 5. The tree, as the classical Kabbalah teachings tell us to do. So it's this thing of the zigzag that goes down, which is descension. Yeah. Again, we don't want to descend.
Yeah.
Not a good idea. So we want to ascend. Right. So over here, what I've got is just to show the numbers starting from the bottom, with Aries at the bottom, and then it goes 1 at the bottom, which is our root, which is the physical, and the Chat, and I'm not going to go through all the names again. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 at the top, and then the 13th sign, which is a Fikiyukas, which is Sekhmet, in the kind of the pineal gland area. Right. So that's kind of how the numbering works. So we want to. What's important here is what I'm showing here is the astrological houses, and they start from the bottom. They do not start from the top, but they are then related to the different fruit or serifot of the tree, which is what the classical Kabbalah teachings tell us. The other thing that I had to change was what happens in the middle here, which the classical Kabbalah teachings talks about as dot. I wanted these circles because that's the flower of life pattern, and it's all based on the flower of life pattern. I didn't want to break the circles because you never in magic you never break a circle, so I didn't want to break those circles, so that meant that certain things had to, some of these channels had to change a little bit, that is just the way it is. Right now, the other thing that I just want to, I'm always going to get to what the tree looks like when I'm done with it, but. The other thing is, so what happens is, what animates these ions in the body, and that is the planets. And the planets, all of them, they have their qualities again. And I can I've got it up here so I can remember it. So the sun, for instance, is awareness. The moon has got to do with our subconscious self and also our mind. Mercury has got to do with communication. Venus has got to do with love and relationships. Mars has got to do with physical energy. Jupiter is expansion. Saturn with control. Uranus with innovation. Neptune with imagination. And Pluto with purification. I just looked at all the classical interpretations of what does the planets mean, what is the problem with mainstream astrology. And the problem with mainstream astrology is this thing called the ephemeris. Anyway, if you look at on this end over here, what the ancients did was, this is the tropical epimeris, and they just basically took the whole zodiac and just cut it into 12 equal parts. And then they say, okay, the planets are moving through these houses, and they're all equal. And then they just bang dates to them, and boom, now that's where the planet is. The problem is when you're into astronomy, for instance, and they say Mars at the moment is in, I don't know, anything, Pisces, and you go and look, then it's not there. And you cannot find it there. And it turns out it's in Aries. Because if you take your telescope and you point it at Mars and you look at it, it's in the constellation of Aries. It's not in the constellation of Pisces, which was where they say in their book, when you look up all where planets are and everything, that's where they say it is. So tropical, I'm afraid to say, and again, it's one of these very controversial things, but it's inaccurate and unscientific, unfortunately. And so what I use is Stellarium, which is an open source software. And this is what you see on the right-hand side. And there you can see the boundaries, and you can see, Aries and Pisces, they're very, very different sizes. And Pisces is quite a large sign, and Virgo over here, number 6, is very, very large. And then you've got this weird thing happening here with 8. And then the 13th sign is Ophiuchus. And then 8 is Scorpio. So Scorpio is tiny. For the chances that somebody's born in Scorpio is actually very, very small. But then there's also Scorpio over here, and it kind of overlaps, but it comes in on the inside, and the planets are actually running through Ophiuchus, but you really have both influences. So I call Ophiuchus a super Scorpio, just based on what I'm seeing over here on the charts, on Stellarium. So then these are the planets, and there they are in the different houses. And the way that I do the chart is I literally just open up Stellarium and go and see, okay, that's where the moon is today, and that is where the sun is today, and then I know which aeon to place which planet, and then we can look at the interpretation. What does it mean when Mars is in Pisces, as opposed to what does it mean when Mars is in anything else, whatever. Yeah. So, okay. And that's where those classical interpretations of what they mean, they are solid. Okay. Now my computer and I want to work with each other. Right, here we go. How to create a tree of life chart is what I'm showing over here. So there's the basic skeleton that I've shown you before now, with Aries starting at the bottom and Pisces at the top. And Aries at the bottom, we've got Suti, and at the very, very top, we've got Atum Ra, and so on. And when the planet is in them, then I just highlight them like that. And I've just chosen the rulers of all the houses just to put them where they are. Okay. Just to show the highlighting. Okay, so now the next thing is I call them channels. I don't know, I can't remember what the Kabbalah, the Golden Dawn guys called it. But I wanted to say these interpretations of the tarot over these, as I say, channels on the tree is, again, I did not think this up. I just took the Golden Dawn interpretation, the classical interpretation. But unfortunately, because I've not completed the circles, things have changed, and I had to, and because of the overlap of the Neteru over the aeons, certain things would not make sense. For instance, I did not see Newton Get having strength, which is where it used to be, because all the mythologies talks of them of being lovers, and they just couldn't get them apart. Nut was the sky, and Geb was the earth. I think I forgot to say that. Okay. And then also over here we've got Sekhem, and its strength Sekhem. I mean, Sekhem is spiritual strength. So I swapped those two around. And then the emperor and the empress, they had these things that ran around, that came down like this, and they are not there anymore. But the emperor and the empress I assigned them to new positions. And then right at the top there are channels that we've never known or have never seen before. And I thought, and I meditated about it again, and asked for guidance. What are these? And I kind of got to the Gnostic interpretation of the three types of human beings, really. What the Gnostics say is there are three groups of human beings. You've got the Halics, which are the ones that have no spiritual connection, really. They cannot understand that there's something higher, something bigger. And that doesn't make them evil or bad people. It's just then they can't get it. They'll tell you I'm an agnostic or I'm an atheist or I'm a scientist and give me a hard science on that. And they're very good people. Again, I want to be very clear about that. They good people, but they just cannot fathom of. And the Gnostics call them Halic. And then on that side you get the psychics, which is people who are devoted to a higher being. So that would be all your religions of the world. And they, again, when they are devoted and honor, sincere about their practice and their belief system, they're good people. And as good people as the Halics, no difference there. And but they just have a different path. And then in the middle over here, you've got the pneumatics, which is basically people, and I kind of do see myself among this group, who basically has a direct experience of the way things are. And then once you've had that experience directly, it's like you then look for confirmation outside to say, okay, hang on, I had this experience. What does it mean? And then you try and understand. Your ego wants to understand what is it that I've just experienced. So they're the mystics. They have these direct flashes of things that just happen to them in their third eye, and then they want to understand it and develop a language to communicate with us. And when you read the Nag Hammadi texts, that's where these guys come from. And they were the mystics of the Greek times. Okay. Anyway, so those are the three groups there that I just added there. I don't know, time will tell whether that is the right assignment for those channels or not. So, okay, so when we put all of these things together, this is then what a tree chart looks like. And I'm just going to give just quickly run through the interpretations. And this happens to be this day's Tree of Life chart. So over here we've got Uranus, and that is, let me see, that's Jupiter, and that's in in Aries. Now, we've got innovation in Uranus, we've got expansion in Jupiter, and we are dealing with the physical ego self. So that's why I got that little sentence there. Because we also have the moon in this today's chart in Taurus, that the classical interpretation means self-care and luxury, and that's what that interpretation would mean. And because both of them are connected, we've got the world channel opening up. Now that means there's a movement. Channel means we are moving from the bottom to the top, always from the bottom to the top, never the other way around. I can't stress that point enough. So there's a completion and an integration and an accomplishment. That is what the world tarot card actually means, okay? And then over here, we've got Pluto in Capricorn. Now, I've just said something enormously controversial, and I realize that. But if you open up Stellarium and you go and look for Pluto, you will find Pluto in Capricorn, and I'm afraid to say not in Aquarius. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Because everybody is on about Pluto and Aquarius, and it's not in Aquarius, it's in Capricorn. So what can I do? And there we are. And then we also have Mars there in Capricorn. So we've got hard work, persistent, re-emanate. So Pluto, what does it do? It re-examines the integrity of our establishments. So that means our governments and our school systems and our everything that's a system, and then our banking industry, all of these establishments, their integrity is under scrutiny at the moment, because that's what Pluto does. Pluto is the purifier. Pluto is like the wormwood of the planets, Wormwood is we call it, it's Artemisia afra, or Artemisia, the plant. I've got it in the garden. I take a little piece of it every single day. I eat some, we call it in Afrikaans, we call it wilde als. And I have a little bit of that every day, and it keeps me, no parasites, no funny things, and it just keeps you very, very pure, and that's Pluto for you.
Okay.
That's what Pluto does. It purifies things. Okay. And Mars means there's physical action there. So, and then just on that point, just to maybe just belabor it a little bit more, Aquarius would mean there would be, if Pluto were to be in Aquarius, that would mean our relationships would be under evaluation now, and we're not even near there at the moment. That's not the way I see the geopolitical scene. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Then we've got the full over there. We've got Venus, and we have there's control, which means let me just see which one is that. That's Saturn again. Me and Saturn have a thing with each other. I always forget who he is. Saturn means control, and Venus means relationships, and there we are in Aquarius. So, there's my sentence for that is an analytic, because we're dealing with Aquarius here. Activation of social justice, because that's just. And I just want to say about that Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn's been in Aquarius for a very long time now. Saturn's also one of those very slow movers, and it's been in Aquarius for quite a time now. So it's almost the era that we are, the era that we're in at the moment. That then creates the full channel, and that always means new beginnings. And then over here at Pisces, I can't see everything that's up there, because I can see Mercury is in there, and I can see Neptune in there. But anyway, I forgot who the other ones are. But anyway, you can probably read what it says there. It's got this line over the, and I don't want to click this. I can't move that at all. Anyway, so I can't read everything on the screen. But that gives us the full chart for this day. Are there any questions at this point?
No, just so all of this is based off of like the planets, like where they're positioned at this very moment. It's exactly. It's crazy to think that the position of the planet is how it affects everything.
Right.
Yeah. So it's again, if you go and download Stellarium and you open it up and you look for the different planets, that's the positions that you'll find them. That's the constellations, or I also call them the aeons. That's where you'll find them. Yeah. And they're not in, as I say, the tropical ephemeris, unfortunately.
No, this is really good stuff.
Yeah. So what has happened here is what I've tried to do is to use to honor as much as I can the traditions. I'm really all about honoring the traditions as much as I can. But as I showed earlier, they weren't talking to each other. I'm an IT guy, and we want things to be integrated with each other and to have interfaces that works. They didn't want to talk to each other too lekker. So I've been struggling this puzzle for many moons, trying to figure out how do we get all these parts to fit together, and then then it gives this sort of interpretation of a day, and then the idea then is where I want to move with this is I want to take Stellarium and somehow manage to, because it's open source, I'll have to get into the C coding language, I guess, and somehow get it to spew out where it says every planet is in which constellation it is, and then build up a database for that. And then we can go really quickly and build up a large database and go quite far back and go quite far into the future. Not too far, because I've found that when you go too far into the future, I believe that even Stellarium starts making mistakes because astronomy isn't that accurate yet.
Yeah.
But then we can certainly go a couple of thousand years this way and that way, and which is anyway what the recorded history, for instance, that we have. And then we want to do something which Terence McKenna did. He had the time wave zero theory, which I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I like that idea of his, that he had a thing, an algorithm, and then he looked at historical events, and his algorithm was mapped over these historical events. So I want to take this and map this over historical events and see, okay, this is what happened on that day in history. What did it say in the sky, and what did it say in our body?
Oh, we had a question.
Yes, good.
Earlier you were talking about like the different densities, from 2 all the way up to 10.
Yes.
Us as physical beings, what exactly can we do to elevate ourselves up that ascension line to be able to reach our highest being?
Right. So you've just asked the question that every single spiritual path have asked.
Yeah.
You've asked the question. And,
big question. We want big answers.
That's a fantastic question.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, go ahead.
But I do have some answers, but some suggestions. But
okay, I would love to hear them.
Okay, so you can say, all right, you got to get into meditation, or I could say you got to get into psychedelics or that. But I'll tell you the way that I do it, and that's the best answer I can give. Is just to speak from my own personal experience, and everyone's going to speak from their own personal experience. And so for me to know how do you get into touch with this your higher being, and how do you know that is a message from your higher being, and the way that I found is I get this flash of an idea, and it's really short. But it's really often it could be quite challenging. But I'll just get this idea, boom, just this thing that just comes into my mind, and then it's gone again. And that's it. Now it's up to my ego to say, am I gonna react on that insight or that inspiration or that idea or whatever it was that just popped into my head? Am I going to act on that, or am I going to ignore it? But now I'm aware of it, and awareness is the redemption, in my opinion, because once I start becoming aware that, oh yeah, I had this thing, and it could have been a dream, it could have been somebody that says something, it could come from any place, or it could just be an idea that pops into your head. But now the question, you want to see if I don't act to it, what happens? And if I do act on it, what happens? And it's something that you experiment with, and it's not something you get right immediately. It takes time, but you get to a point where synchronicity starts becoming really, it just builds and builds and builds in your life as you start to act on. And again, that's what I do. As I act on these impulses, then it could be an impulse to start a new business, and I've acted on those impulses. One impulse that I had was to quit my job when I was 50 years old. And I did it because at that time I was comfortable enough in my knowledge of this guidance that I get within, and that comes from higher being, that I can do that, and I will be okay, and I have been okay. So it didn't work out the way that my ego wants it to work out. It never does. My ego has got lots of little things about this and that and the other, but at the end of the day, I'm okay. And I'm doing new things, and that's what Spirit wanted me to do. And it knew that it was, if I'm going to keep working for the man, I would not have the ability to be focusing on the things that I'm focusing on at the moment, which this is one of them. Yeah. I hope that helped.
Yeah. Because like for the past 10 years, I've been searching for knowledge and of this sort. And before I started this podcast, I would always listen to other podcasts, and I'm sitting there listening to people like yourself, explaining all this stuff, and I'm just like, man, one day I wish I'd be on the podcast and have a guest over like that, and I'm getting the information straight from the source, and so I mean it means a lot that you're actually here right now, and I'm getting firsthand tutorial, guidance and knowledge on this stuff, and man, it means the world. So thank you.
Yeah, I personally am a visual learner in person. So the fact that you had the PowerPoint up here with the pictures, that helps me to understand, because people can talk to me all day long, and it's kind of like, okay, I kind of get it, but I need to see things. So thank you for bringing that on board, because that helps people like us visual people to see this and learn like that. Yeah, this was interesting information.
When you guys contacted me and you said, "Well, I want to speak on this Egyptian stuff," I thought, "Whoa, I'm in trouble now," because I could ramble for hours, and I can go down so many rabbit holes, and it's just I don't. So that's why I then knocked up this presentation. So I hope, I hope it's kind of helping.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, we definitely do want to bring you on to go down those rabbit holes, because that's what we're all about. Going down the rabbit hole, getting all the information that we get. Even if it doesn't, it's not what the mainstream media puts out. It's people,
of course,
people like yourself who are really there, doing the research, and it's not mainstream.
Yeah.
So well, we definitely want to have you back on.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, sure. I'd love to explain more about the tree itself, because that has been my focus, and I can go into all kinds of different little aspects of each thing. I gave you the broadest possible view of what this thing is, but it is, of course, because we're dealing with the map of super consciousness and the map of the universe. So this is a very, very large subject in itself, and I'm literally just showing the tippy of the iceberg here.
Yeah.
And I'm still. I just have to say, I'm not. I'm as much a student as you guys are. I'm just trying to figure out the stuff, and I'm very open to. I love it when people challenge me and ask me questions and tough questions. So, for instance, my niece asked me a question or I had the order the other way around, and she looked at this thing and she wasn't comfortable with it, and I felt sometimes I would feel within myself, and that sometimes it felt really uncomfortable. I wasn't happy, and then one day she had the words. She said, "But this is the tree of death that you're dealing with, not the tree of life." And it shocked me, and I thought, "Whoa, okay, hang on. I get it. I'm taking this on board. I always take on board what people tell me, and let me go and think about it." And I didn't. And then the numbering came, and then I said, "Oh, yes, because the numbering starts at the top and it's going down to the bottom. That's the tree of death. That's the descension. That's the descension process. We don't want to do that. We want to go up. That's why I kept saying we need to go up in the numbers." So how this tree could work is to, if there's something there that you see that kind of maybe that you can identify with, if I can put it like that, then and I one day I'm hoping to get a website, because I'm a web developer. One day I want to get a website where you can just have a slider and you can go through the different days like that, and then its interpretation would change, and then you can also at the same time have the history, and I can even turn that into a social network where people could give their experiences of the day, and we can have the news headlines of the day, and kind of start building a map.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
What's happening, what's happening in the skies, what's happening in our bodies, what's happening in the world.
That'd be so
bring
cool.
Those, that's why I call it the Tree of Life project. That's where I'm heading.
Okay.
And it's an open source project, so I talk about everything that I do, and I ask no money for it, and that's it. It's an open source project. So, but that's kind of, so that might be of help. So, but maybe the short answer is how can all of this stuff help? Because I've been asking my wife asked me this question. She said, "You do all this stuff. What are you going to do with it? What do we do with this?" And again, excellent question. So, and it kind of ties up with the question that you asked earlier on. And so what I'm hoping for is that synchronicity will start kicking in. That you will see something in the tree that synchronistically triggers something for you somewhere. And then that hopefully might be a way that you say, "Oh, okay, I'm starting to understand how all this stuff is, how the magic of life works." If I can, because that essentially, maybe if I can be a little bit more philosophical now, one of my yearnings is when I read about the ancient world of Egypt, magic was part of their daily everything. To them was centered around magic, and what is and then that's the big question: what is magic? And is it and my answer to that is it's first and foremost a state of being, and we want to get into that magical state of being. And when we can get there, enough of us can get there again. I have a belief. I have very few beliefs, because I always tell people I don't believe in something. I'm a Gnostic. I want direct experience, but I do believe in one thing, and that is humanity. And I believe that one day humanity will start will start getting back to the magic of life again on this planet. It's a very utopian dream that I have, but it keeps me up, getting up every day, and
you're not the only one that has that dream. I dream of the same thing, to reach that golden age. Like Thoth in the Emerald Tablets, he talks about whenever he's traveling, and he saw these cities of rose gold, and stuff like that. And it's like, I'm just in there thinking about it. It's like, man, I wish I could see what he was seeing.
I believe we will get there, and he was obviously operating from far higher state of consciousness when you saw those things. Yeah, you're talking about the emerald tablets of those. I've read those books, those scripts or whatever.
Yeah,
I can't remember. Who's the guy who wrote that again? No, but the person who wrote it down.
Oh, translated up. I'm not too sure who it was.
Yeah. Anyway, it's Jehuti is kind of, I see him as definitely as a guide for me as well now.
Me too, for sure.
I have made some connections there in the past. Is there anything else that I can tell you guys about the tree, or can I maybe show you how this relates to the ages? Because that was the last little bit of my presentation that I had.
Let's go for it.
Shall I just show you that? Because that again becomes because I've Aries, the sun was in Aries when I was born, and I'm a Gemini moon. I'm a very controversial. The things that I say tend to sometimes become a bit controversial. I'm going to say this again. So what's going to be? So this might be a little bit controversial, but here we are. The Aries of the Gemini moon is striking again. So
I like that.
People say that we are in the age of Aquarius at the moment, or we just on the cusp of it's going to happen just tomorrow or just the day after tomorrow. And I would love to believe that. But unfortunately, what I'm seeing in the skies is a different picture. And what I'm seeing is, and I'm going to try and just explain a little bit about that. But before I get into the slide itself, I just want to explain that we are talking about the precession of the precessional drift of, because the axis of the Earth is a little bit tilted. There's this drift that happens, and when you open up Stellarium and you can pick any day, and you just go and stay on the day, but you take the year and you just start upping the years, and you see which constellation is the sun in, for instance, and all the planets, of course, but just the sun, and then you'll see it's actually drifting in a counterclockwise way, and it could be any day. So how do we then calculate in which age we are? And so what the astrological body of knowledge have been doing is to say we pick the 21st of March, which is it's the summer equinox, the spring equinox, right? And my question has been, so why that day? Because when I look in Stellarium, it could be any day. And what I then did was to look at all two of the equinoxes and all two of the solstices, and that kind of forms a cross, which is what all the old traditional pagan holidays also had. They celebrate the 21st March, of September, of December, and of June. And that period, not necessarily always exactly on the 21st, but on that period. So I just used the 21st. And then when you look at where the sun is, so what I've got here is the tree representing the entire year now. And then what I discovered was that we are essentially have three types of ages. And that brings us back to the astrological qualities of cardinal, mutable, and fixed. And it starts with cardinal, and I've actually gone back in time on Stellarium and looked, and I see, we started in cardinal sort of configuration of these dates, and then we had by the time of Christ, we had moving over towards the mutable ages, and in our near future we'll have the fixed ages, and that's part of the research that I still one day will do, is to get all these dates together and give a much more comprehensive sort of picture of what I'm talking about here. But here's just a very quick way to look at that. So we moved into, if we look at the tree itself, these are over here, these are the fixed constellations. And then over here, we've got the cardinal constellation. This is the mutable constellations over there. They're all mutable signs. And over here, we've got all the cardinal signs over here. And it only works when you start from the bottom. Then it's the only way that it actually, and when you've got the tree configured with the circles closed, or else I could never match up all these things, but this is, it slots in perfectly. And so when you go and look at the 21st of June, that actually are in the 1915 already. When you look in Stellarium, where's the sun on the 21st of June, 1915? It already started touching Taurus, and it was moving from Gemini into Taurus. So then the first block of the fixed age already slotted into place for us as humanity. Now we are in between that first block and the next part, and at the moment, everything else is still mutable. And it will remain mutable until the next thing that's going to change is we're going to move on the 21st of December, in 200 years from now, we'll find Scorpio coming into the fixed position. At the moment, we're still in Sagittarius. And then the next thing that'll happen is 300 years from now, Leo will become fixed. And then in 600 years from now, Aquarius will become fixed. And when that has happened, we find these 4 fixed signs in the tree, which again is representative of the human body and our relationship with what's happening within our body and what's happening in the sky. There's that relationship happening then. And this is also called the tetramorph. You may have seen this. It's the face of the human. It's the eagle, or also Scorpio. Both are used there. The lion and the bull. And you may have seen this in many sort of metaphysical. The Bible mentions it in the Old Testament and so on.
Yeah.
So we are looking. We know about. We are moved. This is our. How can I put this? This is our omega point. At that time, humanity will in that 600 years from now. At that point, if we don't self-destruct within the next decade, if we
hopefully not.
If we're still around. I believe we will be, but at that point, everything will be fixed, and that would be a most spiritual time because this is the center column, which is mean the direct connection with our spirit souls will come into play then. But that's unfortunately what I see within in the constellations in the sky. When we take a scientific view of it, and not when we use the tropical ephemeris, which again, unfortunately, is very inaccurate. And so. But the good news is we're already in one part is already fixed, and that is Taurus. So we're already moving towards that, but the maybe the summary that I have in one is that it's a slow process. We want things to happen yesterday, but we must hold our horses. We will get there, and but it's a slow process, and I do believe, and this is also a belief. I can't prove this, but I do believe in reincarnation. So I believe we'll be back. And I know everybody always says, I'll never come back. But I do believe we will be back, and things will get better. And this is the good news that we can see in the skies. We're moving towards a fixedness and a solidity, and that omega point, that final place. But it doesn't stay there. I've looked. It's about 2,000 years that we'll be in that state, and then we'll start transitioning back into a coronal age again.
Okay.
And the cycle will probably continue. The only thing that might change that cycle, I guess, is if we could correct the axis of the Earth. Then, of course, the whole all of that won't be there. But I don't think we should not attempt anything like that right now. I don't think so.
I hope not. Oh man.
But yeah. So I hope this was useful and insightful.
It was really useful. So, but before we end this, if you want to shout out any of your like your sites, like your eggs for people to go check your stuff out.
I am Boere Rasta.
Okay.
On X, and that's from there you'll find the other stuff that I've got. But that's I'm only on that. That's the only thing I have at the moment. One day I might get a website up and running, but I didn't expect to talk about this at all. I mean, when you contacted me, I was very surprised. So I'm not there yet. I don't have anything else. Yeah.
Well, people are gonna have something to look forward to. I know for sure. I'm looking forward to it whenever you get it up and going. Especially like you said with the daily news thing. That I think that's gonna be freaking awesome.
Yeah,
it's gonna be really cool.
That'll be cool if I can just get the time to do it, because I've got some other projects on the go as well.
Yeah.
But I think they might dovetail, because I am working on a social network as well at the moment. And
okay.
Pushing it at the moment, so for private schools. So and it's kind of a next generation social network. So maybe one day I can obviously reuse that code, but the big thing would be to get that accurate ephemeris going, and there. I've done the research on the internet, and here and there I could find something that I could maybe call an API or something, or like a web service or something, but I don't trust it yet. So I don't know. What I'm saying is that's not going to happen tomorrow, unfortunately. So at the moment, what I'm doing is I have made the commitment to put out for every cycle of the moon, starting with the moon in Aries and ending with the moon in Pisces, every cycle, I make a video and I pin it on my X account. And so you can have a look at the video. And then that's what I've got out there at the moment. So if you go to my account and you just go see my pinned video at the top, and then you can see the cycle of this cycle of the moon. And I'm going to try and work ahead a little bit so that I don't have to, so I can, because I was one day late on publishing this one. I published it, I think on the 14th, and it started on the 13th. But so you can follow me there and chat to me there. I always appreciate that.
Okay.
Wonderful. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time in case I cannot pronounce your name correctly, but is it Tertius? Tertius. Okay.
Tertius,
we'd like to thank you, Tertius, for coming on and sharing your knowledge about your project, The Tree of Life. And for everybody, there's this on the presentation, you see his name there for the X. So you guys go follow him. And again, thank you so much. I'm a firm believer that everybody has their own gifts. And, it is our duty to share with others that are seeking answers and enlightenment in this kind of community. So we really do appreciate you for coming on board.
Again, thank you so much for sharing this information with us. You can follow him on the X, formerly known as Twitter, at BoereRasta. And from all of us here at the Melted Broadcast, remember, Stay melted.
People say that I'm one of the greats, I'm the one that you love to hate. Shake 'em up like a quake, pop your feelings and turn to dispose them like haters I throw away. I'm forever blessed, got the spirit that's holy controlling me, I ain't gotta coordinate. I just sit back and buckle my bills and I'm ready to blast in the stars of my destination. Melted, broadcast, open, vision,